All right, so this is the time of the year. Me as a used car dealer, we are going to start taking some pretty big losses. And I know it seems weird because we just came out of tax time, we just came out of selling season. But this is the time of year that we have to move inventory as quick as possible because we know on the other end of this, prices are going to drop and they're going to drop in a big way. And even more so on the wholesale side than on the retail side. So that means I need to clear out all the inventory I have. I need to get rid of all my problems right now because on the other side of this, I'll be able to buy stuff for a lot cheaper. I can basically reset our whole stock of inventory for a much lower price. And for me as a dealer that likes to give my consumer a good deal, then that means my retail prices are going to come down in a substantial way too. So I don't want those new cars that are coming in to my inventory in a month from now that I buy a lot cheaper than what I can buy right now to directly compete with the cars that I pay too much for. So right now we're in scramble mode to try to get rid of everything that we can right now, and that includes my trash and the stuff that maybe we shouldn't have bought or we paid too much for. And in my case, there was a short amount of time where I went and bought some cars at auction, and because Alex, my mechanic, who usually buys my cars, who is a better car buyer than I am, so I was buying cars instead of him for a short amount of time. And guess where all our bad cars, our turds came from? In that short amount of time when I was buying the cars. And it comes from me, the particular one auction, going in there not thinking I was going to be able to buy anything. It turns out prices were okay. So I just bought a bunch of stuff that I didn't check out. So we've got at least two cars from that auction that one's, I know, a head gasket, the other one's a transmission, that we are sending to auction. One's this week, and we're going to send another one next week. But the reason why, even throughout the year, at the end of December, January, whatever, if we get cars that we know are junk, that we know that we don't want to sell to our customers, then what we do is we just hold on to them until it's this time of year, because we know that wholesale prices are at the highest that they're going to be all year round. So we hold those cars for this time period, and then we send them to auction because we're just going to get rid of them, and we'll know they'll bring a little bit more. But I'll give you some examples of what we're having to deal with right now. There's a Acadia. It's I'm pretty sure it's a GMC Acadia that we have right now that I paid, I think, $2,000 $2,500 for, somewhere around there, and it needs a transmission. And unfortunately, the transmission that one needs is like $2,500. So we know that if we put that in that vehicle, we're probably going to still lose money because it's probably, at the end of the day, a $3,500 car on our lot. So we're going to end up taking the risk of putting a used transmission, albeit it'll have a warranty on the transmission. We'll put that in there, but still, you can get a bad transmission and put it in a car, and then you have to wait even longer to get another transmission in to put in the vehicle. It's just a pain, and we know we'll lose money if we put transmission in, so we might as well just send it to auction at this time when the prices are a little bit elevated on the wholesale level, and go ahead and dump it to let somebody else deal with it. When I say somebody else, another dealer, and they'll will get rid of it in that fashion. But it's probably only going to bring $700-800 at the auction, and we know it's only going to bring that much. Now, I've talked a lot about why independent dealers, their cars, when they send them to auction, bring a lot less than new car dealers, because new car dealers traditionally, what they bring to auction are trade-ins. That's what used car dealers like me want to buy. So when I send a car to auction as an independent dealer, even though I paid $2,500 for that car at auction, even if it's in the exact same condition as when I bought it and run it through the auction, it's going to bring like $700-800 because all these other dealers know exactly what I know. And if I couldn't sell that car, if I didn't want to sell that car on my lot, then they're not going to be able to sell it on their lot because there's probably something major wrong with it. In the case of this car that I'm sending, it's the transmission. And I want to talk a little bit about the cars that actually do sell to consumers and why we might take some losses on those cars right now. It's because of just the way that the market's moving, and we know that there's going to be this drop off. So if there's anything that we feel like we paid too much for and we couldn't sell through at tax time, which we had a few cars left over, I think we were down to 12 cars at one point, and we had over 100 from what we were selling. So there were some stragglers that didn't move for whatever reason. Either we just had them priced too high, or because we paid too much for them, or cosmetically maybe they're not the best, or maybe they're just not desirable cars, and the market is telling us that. So what we have to do is we have to cut prices to get those cars to move out, so we have other cars coming in and replacing those spots. So we just deal with that a lot this time of year, and we're in more of a rush to sell cars. Usually after we start seeing the tax checks start to dry up, because we don't want to get stuck with anything. And that's what I think a problem with a lot of dealers, especially in our range of vehicles, and even in the $5,000 to $15,000 range. Those used car dealers, I think they really struggle with, because they don't want to cut prices very quickly, especially after they go through a time of selling a lot of cars. It does seem counterintuitive, but we know what happens in the market, and we know that money dries up, and we know it as quickly as that money got here, it's going to disappear. So we want to stay ahead of it. And that's what we do this time of year. And you won't see a lot of dealers do that. And that's why they get pinched in the next month, 2 months from now, is because they want to hold on to these vehicles that they think they can sell, that they paid way too much for, probably right now or just a couple weeks ago. And they'll end up suffering because of it. Their floor plans will come up on them. We don't have a floor plan, but even so, I bet I'm even with our car lot, I'm probably even faster to lower our prices than a dealer that has their floor plan, just because we want to do the volume game. We want to turn and burn these cars. And traditionally throughout the year, what we'll do is if we have a car, we have it posted and it goes 2 weeks, and we don't get any traction, any kind of leads, if we don't have any test drives on the car, we're going to drop about $500. And then if we go another 2 weeks and we still haven't sold it yet, we're dropping another $500. And by the time we get to 4 weeks or 6 weeks that we have that car, we're usually breaking just about even on that car. And if it gets past that, we're probably going to lose money. There's a lot of cars, a lot of situations throughout the year where we pay too much for a car, or we buy it wrong, or there's something wrong with it that we had to fix. And a car that we thought that maybe we could sell for $4,500, turns out the market tells us we can't sell it for that. So there's cases where we mark that car all the way down to $2,500 and get rid of it, and we'll take that $1,000 loss, $1,500 loss, whatever it is, just because we buy a car wrong or whatever. But we're quick to do that because we know, all right, let's get that car off the lot. We don't want it competing with these other cars that we're going to make money on. So we do that quite a bit. We'll have these situations where we'll hit home runs on a car. We can make $2,000 on some cars, but we know that that's going to be evened out, because there's also going to be some cars we lose $2,000 on. So on average for our car lot, if you've been paying attention to this channel, to our main channel, listening to our podcast, whatever, you'll be able to, you know that on average we make $1,000, $1,200 per car here at our dealership. And that has to even itself out from selling these cars that we make $1,800, $2,000 on, and we'll have some that we break even or we lose money on. So that's the average that we get to. But I wanted to try to get to more questions in the chat today. So if you have any, throw them down there. And my wife's here, and she's going to throw some up here so I can answer them for you. All right, what's up, baby?
I just want to say I appreciate you giving me a heads up on that.
Yeah, there you go.
Much easier. Okay, first question. Looking for a first car for my son. How do I find a dealer like you in my area? It's in Dallas-Fort Worth.
Well, I can tell you, I like to toot my own horn with this, but there's not a lot of dealers that exist that are like us. But they are out there. There are some that do sell cheaper cars, that do try to do right by the consumers, that don't try to price gouge, add these crazy fees. Or doc fees. We don't have a doc fee. Most dealers that you find out there, they're going to have a doc fee, and we don't have it. But doc fee is the standard out there. But there are dealers out there that do not charge one. But if you want to find a good dealer in your area, the first place I would look is just go into Google, the Google machine, and type in dealers near me, and you're gonna have 40 to 100 different dealers that pop up, and just start looking at your Google reviews. Now, Google reviews are not the by any means the law of how you pick a good dealer, but it's just a good place to start. And if you see some smaller dealerships that have 20, 30, 100 reviews and they've got like a 2-star, that's probably not a place that you want to go to. So there's dealerships out there that you can see that are smaller, that have hundreds of reviews and still have over about a four-star review, especially if they're a dealer that sells cheaper cars. It's very difficult to keep a high review standard on your dealership because cheaper cars, stuff breaks on them, and that's the places that you're going to get your negative reviews. So if you find a dealership that has cheaper cars that sell stuff like we do, and they have over a 4-star rating on Google, you probably know that they're checking out their cars pretty well. But the way to really insulate yourself when you're going to look for cars, no matter what, and I say this a lot, but you have to get the car checked out. It's almost more important for you to find a good mechanic, and it's not almost more important. It's absolutely more important for you to find a good mechanic versus finding a good dealer, because even a good dealer like me, we sell lots and lots of cars. We might at any given time have 100, 120 cars that we've bought within the last month. It's very difficult for us to go through every little nook and cranny on these vehicles when we're trying to turn and burn them as quickly as possible. So things can fall through the cracks. And we try to take care of our customers as best we can. And we try to check out these cars as best we can, but we're going to miss it. As much of a superhero as Alex is, my mechanic, something's going to get missed. So the way to insulate yourself from any of that, from a bad dealer, from a good car, from a bad car, from one that's not been maintained, if you take it to your trusted mechanic and have them check it out before you buy it, have them check it out like they're going to buy it, like they're buying it for a family member, for themselves, get it up on a lift. If you have them test drive it, go through all of these things, then you can get you can have a much better idea of the car that you're buying. And that's probably the best advice that I can give you, is to just find that good mechanic. And when you do find a good mechanic, that's almost as rare as finding a good car dealer. They go on your Christmas card list. Every time you go in there, you get an oil change, you take baked goods. You want them to know who you are, and you want to treat them as good as they are treating you. So same thing with finding a good car dealer. Start with mechanics near me. Look at reviews. You want to look for words like honest, trustworthy, affordable, things like that, where they're not trying to gouge people, because some mechanics can be just as bad as some of these shady dealers when they're trying to rip people off. So that's the first thing I want you to do, is find a good mechanic, because then at that point, it almost doesn't matter if you're buying from a good dealer or a bad dealer. You just know that you're getting a good car, and then you can figure out pricing on your own. There's lots of online mediums. You can, Car Edge does a good job. You can check Kelly Blue Book. You can check a bunch of different find different places that are selling that same particular car in your area, and figure out kind of what you should pay for it. You can do that. That's research. No problem. You can figure that out on your own, just going online. But knowing if it's a good car or not, that's when you need the mechanic, if you're not mechanically inclined yourself. All right, next question.
So back to the original topic that you were discussing. If you're taking a loss at the auction, why not put the transmission in and sell it for a few $100s more than you were planning, and the customer gets a car with a new transmission?
But what if we bought the car incorrectly or badly to begin with? I paid too much for the car to begin with. So what we're doing is we're throwing good money at bad money. You probably heard that before. If you pay attention to anything financial, anything in the stock market, you never want to throw money that's not invested into something that's probably a bad investment. And us putting more money into a car that I paid too much for to begin with, and then at the end of that, we would have to even raise our price of what we would want to sell it for initially. And that's not what I want to. I would rather just go dump it and lose that $1,500, $2,000 than lose $500 or $1,000 and sell it to a customer, but end up having to charge them $1,000 or $1,500 more than what I would want to. So I'm okay taking the loss. I don't want my customer to have to pay more than what the car is worth to be able to purchase the vehicle. So that's our take on that situation. I just don't want to throw good money after bad money. Is that a good enough answer? I feel
Yep.
like it.
Just to add to it, there are times when it does make sense. If we got a decent deal on it, we
Yeah.
absolutely put transmissions in and end up still sometimes losing money, but not very much or whatever. Just depends on the situation.
Yep, it depends on what the final product, what am I trying to say? The last price that we'd have to charge at the end of the rainbow after the transmission is in there. We do it sometimes, but usually a lot of times it doesn't work out because I buy a car wrong. That's what happened this time.
How long do you anticipate until you have to start charging your customers $6,000 instead of $5,000?
So it's interesting that you bring that up. So during tax time, I know a lot of you saw some of our videos on our main channel, Car Questions Answered, that I was walking in front of a lot of cars, and quite a few of them had $5,500 on the windshield. And during tax time, we have to, at least this past tax time, we had to extend our range a little bit because it was too difficult for us to find cars that we could only sell for $5,000 and under. That's where we like to stay. But by expanding our range just a little bit, adding an extra $500 to what me and Alex could spend on cars at auction, that allowed us to buy out, I would guess, probably about 15 to 20 more cars during tax time. So it's all going to depend on where the car market goes. And what I see in the car market is that prices are going to come down from here, especially on the used car side. So I don't think that's anytime soon, but as inflation just naturally takes effect, not talking about the inflation that we've seen over the last 4 years, that's abnormal, but there's just a natural inflation that happens in the car market, in the housing market. Things go up in price, go up in, you can call it value. I don't know if it's value, but they go up in price over time. So it eventually it will happen. If I had to bring out my crystal ball and say, okay, when are we probably going to go up the next tier as far as price point? I would guess it would be probably 3 to 5 years would be my guess. And that's with me baking in that I think prices are going to pull back a little bit and then continue to go up from there. So that would be my guess. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that prices come down so much that we can go back to the price point that we used to be, which was we would almost never have anything over $3,500. Oh, I so miss the days when it hasn't been that long ago. It's been like 4 or 5 years ago that we had $1,500 cars, we had $2,000 cars, we had $2,500 cars, and that was a majority of the cars that we had on our car lot. So it's just insane how much prices for my level of vehicle has gone up in the last 4 years in a lot of the segments, especially the cheaper stuff, like stuff that we used to sell for $1,500. That same quality, that same range of car is now $3,000 that we have to sell it, because we used to be able to pay $700-800 for those cars, and we could make a lot less on those vehicles then, because I mean we're just pumping out $1,500 cars like crazy. But now those same $700-800 cars that we used to buy, now we're paying $1,900-2,000 for those exact same cars on the wholesale level. So in turn, then we have to sell those kind of cars for $3,000 and $3,500 if we have to fix anything to them, or if they're on the higher range of what the quality is for those vehicles. And it's I want to get back to that. I doubt that's ever going to happen though. But I hate it, because still, even now, we have customers that come into our building that have bought cars from us in years past, and they're like, okay, you're my spot for my $2,000 car, for my $2,500 car. I bought one from you 5 years ago. It just now blew up, and I want to buy another one. And we can't help them. And that's all they have. They got $2,000, $2,500, and that's all they got. And we can't help them anymore, because now our price point is $3,500. All right, I see another question. You can pull it up.
Yep, last one. I think is all we have time for. If you have a scanner and know what to look for, couldn't you do your own inspection?
You can, but the scanner's not going to tell you everything. So I want you to be able to get it up on a lift, because you have to go under there, see if there's something leaking that you can't see from the top end. You want to see if there's any kind of frame damage. You want to be able to look for rust. A scanner's not going to tell you anything about rust. You want to be able to know the right smells, the right sounds that you're supposed to hear. Now, if you're mechanically inclined, then you can probably do all this stuff and use a scanner to be able to figure that stuff out. But if you don't have a lot of knowledge about vehicles and fixing cars and things like that, then the scanner is not, it's not going to tell you everything that you need to know. It's not, I mean, it's not going to tell you if the air conditioning's cold. It's not going to tell you if the fuel pump's got significant wear on it, the kind of compression that you're getting out of some of these cylinders. Whereas actually some of them do read compression, but you're going to get into an expensive scanner that's going to do a lot of your live data, that's going to check a lot of these individual systems. But for the average person, the scanner that you're going to buy is probably going to be a $30 to $50 scanner. And it's literally going to tell you if the OBD2, if the engine, or if the transmission is throwing any kind of fault codes. And it's not going to give you the whole picture of if that's a good car or not. So yes, if you're mechanically inclined, you know exactly what you're looking for. You can look at a frame. You can check these things that scanners won't tell you. The scanner is going to give you a lot of information to help you make your mind up on if it's a good car or not. But the scanner is not enough for just the average person. But I want to thank you guys for watching this video. And if you don't know where we are, we're on Car Questions Answer on YouTube. CQA Live is this channel. It's the second channel, so subscribe if you haven't. We have a podcast. Just type in Car Questions Answered to Apple or Spotify. You'll be able to find us there. And I'm on Twitter, and I don't even know what our handle is on Twitter, so you'll have to figure that out. It's just type in Car Questions Answered. You'll find us. But
X.
Thank you guys. X. I'm sorry. And don't, if you send me a message on there, don't expect to get any kind of reply on there, because I check it periodically, and I'll try to. And I'm vamping at this point. Thank you guys. Like the video. Peace.